Many of you who listen to this show and this station make migrant immigration your #1 concern. And the story of Shamina Begum being allowed back this morning has well, suggested to be allowed back, has sent many of you through the roof. We say a very good morning to immigration lawyer. Let's give him credit. Ivon Sampson. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, very well, Jeremy. How are you doing?
Are you on holiday somewhere or are you at home? What's happening?
No, I'm in Dubai.
Brilliant. OK. Now, Ivon, I appreciate you being on. Genuinely appreciate you coming on. Shamina Begum, citizenship revoked 2017. The ISIS child bride, the do-gooders jumped up and down and went, she was indoctrinated. The people who think she should rot in hell for all eternity went, hold on a second. She married into something where a terrorist cold-bloodedly murdered people across the world. He was part of that and beheaded them. This morning, the Counter-Terrorism Review Board has said that ISIS bride Shamina Begum should be allowed back into the United Kingdom. I'm going to push my chair back and ask you, Ivon Sampson, human rights lawyer, what do you make of this?
Well, look, this is obviously an emotive and polarising case, and I understand your viewers' concerns. But it raises really important legal principles, Jeremy, that go beyond an individual's case. The principle is, can a British government deprive a British citizen of their citizenship by doing so would render them stateless? And they did in this case. Whatever you... And Shamina Begum has nothing to do with migration. She was a British citizen. Just like you, just like me.
I haven't committed terrorist effects or supported them against the British nation where people are murdered, Ivon. I'd like to start with that.
Well, had you done so, you would have been investigated and charged and tried in a court of law, which is what the British government should have done. And it's really the question of whether she should be returned is not really anything to do with what she did or bad choices she made as a 15-year-old child, but whether it's the UK government has a commitment to the rule of law and to the principle that citizenship cannot be removed arbitrarily. Sajid Javid should hang his head in shame for that decision back in 2017, because it impacts not just her, but every other person in that same situation. Now, had Shamina Begum been a white person, would they have been deprived? The answer is no, they would not have been deprived.
Where does that come from, Ivon? Where does that come from? Well, this girl, whether you believe she was... I mean, I'd like to point something out. It's not about the colour of somebody's skin. Why the bloody hell weren't her parents not encouraging or allowing her to go off? The fact is, she went to a country or an organisation that mandatorily murder people, innocent people across the world, including in the United Kingdom, and became part of that, had children with this man. The British government, you say, as a rule of law, should say, OK, your citizenship is not revoked, you should come to Britain and stay in a jail. I ask you this, I've already tried that. Well, not tried, I've made my point about terrorist activities. Why the bloody hell should people listening to this who are going to work this morning and paying their taxes pay for her to rot in a British prison? I don't understand.
Because she's British. She was British. Look, if you let me answer the question on that point, she has committed an offence, not been proved as yet. And even if you're absolutely right, and I don't doubt that there are strong evidence against her, she should be tried in British courts. Sajid Javid essentially abandoned a British citizen to live in the most terrible conditions. And you forget, Jeremy, she had children in that prison who were de facto British. This government had a responsibility.
What does de facto British mean?
It means they would have been British had she not had a British citizenship.
But I wouldn't have the terrorists, the ISIS terrorists living in this country, so the children wouldn't be British. That's a ridiculous argument, Ivon. She went and lived in a foreign country and had children with an ISIS terrorist who murders people, and you're saying we've a responsibility. I suppose the next minute you're going to tell me that the Labour Party's idea of this getting rid of the two-child cap benefit's a good idea. Do you not think that people who work hard shouldn't have to pay for the feckless to have children? Because I do.
Come on, Jeremy, you're better than this. Look, she was British. The children would have been British because the British Nationality Act made them British, had she not been deprived. So I'm afraid we abandon not just Shamina Begum, but her children who had not committed any offences, had done no wrong, and ultimately paid the highest price because they died in those horrible conditions.
Can I ask you a question, seriously, calmly? We know each other. We all have a degree. You say I can do better than this. I'll take that, but I will forever say what I think, and that's the beauty of a democracy and debate. I fail to understand, Ivon, people like you. We've talked about immigration, we've talked about Shamina Begum, we'll talk about the Archbishop in a minute. You strike me that you are very much like the Labour Party and many politicians, that you're not gauging in any way, or a junior doctor or the BMA, you're not able to gauge at all what the British public are thinking. Just let me explain that. You sit there and pontificate about how the law says that she's this and she's that. Go out and explain in this country how people being allowed to come here for, what's the story this morning? The Archbishop of Canterbury, the new one, backs baptising migrants, right? I'll give you another story and you're going to say to me, well, that's good. I'm going to tell you, if you're gaming the system and being told if you become Christian, you can come here and sit on your backside and be given a better life than you had on a beach in France, most people out there, as with Shamina Begum, will go, that is wrong. And people like Ivon Sampson are so divorced from the reality of what people in this country think. And why is that? Because he's an immigration lawyer who makes a living, and I'm being as straight as you've been, on actually dealing with this crap on a daily basis, which is why you sit on shows like this and try and defend it. Try and defend the baptising of migrants. Are you going to be able to do that?
Yes, I dealt with a case where a young girl was converted to Christianity, and she was quite rightly given asylum status.
Why?
A genuine case.
Why?
You see, listen, the task of deciding whether someone's genuine or not is in the hands of the Home Office. And they've got to make sure that they have systems in place to weed out those people.
So the girl you defended, how old was she?
She was 12 years old.
And she came to you and said, did she, Ivon, I know you're being paid for by the British taxpayer, but I'd just like to tell you at 12 that I've decided to become a Christian. And you went, OK, I'll represent you and I'll get you status in England. Or did somebody say the way that she will stay here is if we get her converted to Christianity? Come on, it's a perfectly justifiable question.
Well, I have a duty of confidentiality, but let me tell you about this. One thing is for sure, is that I don't earn a single penny off legal aid on any of the work that I do. And I get accused of this all the time.
Okay.
I get, oh, you're taking British taxpayers' money.
Okay.
Not a single client of mine is paid for by the British taxpayer. So let's get that quite clear.
How do you make your money then? Because if you're an immigration lawyer, where do the immigrants get their money to pay your bills from?
Well, you're assuming I'm charging everyone, Jeremy.
So you do it for free?
Well, you're assuming I'm charging every one of my clients, and that's a wrong assumption.
No, I'm not assuming. I'm asking you, if you're an immigration lawyer who believes that 12-year-olds can be baptised to stay here, hear me out, that Shamina Begum should be allowed to come back because her and her children are essentially British. I'm saying to you, if that is your title and immigrants have no money because they escape war-torn countries like France to come to Great Britain because they're destitute, we know they get into huge debt by paying these horrible, nasty traffickers, these boat people. How do they pay Ivon Sampson? Because you're an immigration lawyer.
Well, this is not about me, Jeremy. Many lawyers do pro bono work, and quite rightly they do. Many of
How
my
much of your work is immigration, though? Because that's the time I'm only asking you. Is it a majority or?
Not about me, Jeremy.
Okay.
This is about whether Shamina Begum should be allowed. And the answer is she should be allowed to return. Not because I support Shamina Begum, not at all. In fact, if it's proven, she should be prosecuted and jailed for what she's done. That's not my point. My point is that the rule of law says a government should not arbitrarily remove a British citizen's citizenship. When doing so would render them stateless. Because what's happened is she is stateless.
Good.
And she's now in a Syrian detention center.
Good.
In the most horrendous conditions.
Good.
Whatever she's done, she is British. She should not be allowed to stay there. She should be brought back to the UK, should be tried in a court of law. And the argument of the government lawyers is she's a threat to national security. Well, that may well be the case, but we can mitigate that factor by we have the most sophisticated counter-terrorism systems and operations.
We don't really. We've got a counter-terrorism review. What?
we can't deal with one lady. We can't monitor and make sure that she's doesn't commit.
Ivon, I'm allowed to say this to you, mate. You're in Dubai. I'm not saying who you represent or how you make your money. I live in the United Kingdom. Our Justice Secretary had to admit yesterday that 91 people have actually escaped from prison in the last 12 months. I haven't got any faith in any systems. Can I ask you about the law specifically? Lawyers like you always talk about mitigating circumstances. Do you believe as a man, as a father, whatever, that a lot of the law that you guys will attach yourself to, and I ain't going to change that, you like Starmer, right? Do you not think that so many of the laws, ECHR amongst them, but other laws that have been passed down for years are so out of touch, out of date, need changing for the very reasons that common sense amongst the British, electorate is? How does that make any sense? Do you understand that view or not?
I do, and in fact, I've been actually promoting changing the Refugee Convention, because it wasn't designed for people to flee war-torn countries. It wasn't. When 1951, when that Refugee Convention was drafted by British lawyers, it's actually designed to protect people fleeing political persecution by their government.
75 years ago.
And so what's happened is it's now being used for people fleeing war-torn countries, and that was not the purpose of the Refugee Convention. So I've actually promoted. I said, look, we need to look at that Refugee Convention. People shouldn't be allowed to use it to flee civil war, for example.
If you lived in the UK, would you be happy for Shamina Begum to live next door to you?
What I would be happy for is for all the accusations against her, for to be tried for those accusations, for her to be properly investigated, and if found guilty, for her to be punished.
Whilst that was happening, would you be happy living next door to Shamina Begum if she came back to Britain?
It has nothing to do about me living next door to Shamina Begum.
You said
Jeremy.
she would be safe and she wouldn't be a danger, so surely your answer would be yes, she's not a danger.
No, I'm saying what I didn't say that. What I said was, if she is a danger to national security, which is what the position of the British government is, that it can be mitigated by counter-terrorism measures, but by surveillance and through tagging and so forth. So you can't just simply abandon someone because you think they're a threat to the country. It hasn't been
you can surely abandon someone, or let me put it differently in terms of law, because you're much more intelligent than me. Surely you can, as an organisation, as a country, as a kingdom, say, we have rules, right? And you have absolutely and utterly smashed those rules to being, and you know what? We don't want you in our country. Because if we ever get to a point where people who commit crimes, terrible people, are being given every excuse to stay by lawyers, and I get your point, right? You're not going to tell me, but the truth is this. You go on about how you're trying to change the Refugee Convention. I would go further. I want us to always talk, so don't take this the wrong way. If I was ever anywhere near power, I would make it the lawyers who represent these people to come to this country who are taking advantage, I would make really stricter controls on that, because I think too many people, not just Shamina Begum, not just the ones who want to be baptised because they've suddenly found God / a passport, I think we should tighten this up. I genuinely do. And you, I know, think that I probably come from another planet. But there are millions and millions of hard-working people in this country, Ivon, who are up to the back teeth with a country, a legal system, lawyers, whatever, who seem to say that every single person who comes from a war-torn country / doesn't, every single person that commits a crime, or let's be more concerned about them than the victim, is being treated better, you'll hate this word, but I have to use it, than an indigenous population that are struggling financially, emotionally, in many, many ways. This country is skinned. I know that people will say, well, it's not the same as Eritrea. Go north of Watford Gap and talk to working class people, because they are struggling. And they listen to stuff like this, my friend, with the greatest respect, and they go, what's happened to my country? I'm at the back of the queue. Listen, Ivon, great to have you on. Immigration law, Ivon Sampson, live and exclusive from Dubai. Back in 3.